And if you've never heard the voices for Larry's other brother, Daryl, does a great basement type singing in that. It won't be long until we're singing another type song, Joy to the World. I believe Isaac Watts was the author of that. But listen to some of the words. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing. Notice how nature is worked into that song. Let heaven and nature sing. And it's repeated there. The next verse, joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. While fields and floods, here we're getting back to nature again, rocks, hills, and plains, repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Why does he emphasize nature? No more let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. We're back to nature. Thorny old nature. Beautiful, but thorns are there. He comes to make his blessings flow, far as the curse is found. Far as the curse is found. Isaac Watts had some good insight there, because when the Lord created the world and a beautiful garden in that natural setting, and he placed two perfect human beings, Adam and Eve, in that garden and said, I want you to tend it. I want you yourselves to be fruitful and to multiply and to become like me. I am your God, the God of love. And he gave them the opportunity to become loving beings by having the choice to choose this or to choose that. Unfortunately, they made some wrong choices, so therefore the curse came in. And they were cursed because thorns came in to that beautiful garden setting. And pain came in a beautiful occasion of childbirth. And yet when Jesus came, we're told that he redeemed us from the curse of the law, the curse of being able to stand up to and fulfill what God wants us to do and be. And so he took the curse upon himself, and he gave us a blessing instead. The very first words in the Sermon on the Mount, the first teaching section of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, are blessed. You are blessed because of this, and so forth. We want to talk this morning about God's blessing and how that had an ancient history to it. The curse came in with the fall there in the Garden of Eden, but sometime later God said to a man, Abraham, I want to bless you, and I want you to be a blessing to others. I'm going to bless you and your descendants, your offspring. I'm going to bless others out of the nations through you. And so it is a promise from God, if this man believes it, and he believes it. He just took God at his word, that he is going to be blessed, and he's going to be a channel of blessing to others. Let me suggest to you that God wants to make the same covenant with us today, a covenant of blessing. That's what he made with Abraham. I promise I will bless you if you'll believe what I'm saying, and you will be a blessing to others, okay? I'm going to bless you, Abraham, with the good life. And everyone you come in contact with, guess what? They're going to be blessed too. You ever notice that? Now, Lot had some good qualities, but he was related to Abraham, and he spent a lot of time around Abraham. Therefore, he was automatically blessed. And the people that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob came in contact with, they were just blessed because they were dealing with a blessed one. That is the covenant that God wants to make with us today. Galatians 3, Paul says the original intent of God was what he stated with Abraham. The gospel was preached to Abraham, Galatians 3:7. What was it? He believed God, and therefore he was counted as righteous. That's the gospel. The good news is when we take God at his word, he says, you're okay. You're righteous and justified in my sight. That's the blessing that we have. Now he tells us and challenges us to go and to be a blessing to others. So we want to look this morning at some of the ABCs of inheriting this blessing from God. We don't earn it. It's an inheritance. If we believe God and we come to him and trust that what he has done, not what we've done or are going to do, then we will be blessed people. We will experience the good life. And I hope you read the article inside your bulletin, because it shows us that what Peter says here in our text in 1 Peter 3 is based on Psalm 34. You might say Peter is preaching a sermon, and he bases it on his text, Psalm 34. Now, he began that back in chapter 2, verse 12, and the key word in this sermon is the word submit. Submit yourselves to the governing authorities. Submit yourselves to those who are over you, whether it's in family relations or in other ways. This idea of submitting is how we become blessed. That's a dirty word in today's culture. We don't want to submit to anyone. We want to assert our rights. We want to stand up for ourselves. But Peter is saying, quoting Psalm 34, you find the good life, the blessed life. You can inherit that blessing right now. You'll inherit an even greater blessing when you leave this realm and you go to the realms above. You can be blessed by having this quality of this humble, submissive attitude. So as we look at this blessed attitude, we notice in these ABCs to experience the good life to which we're called. We talk about someone's calling. Well, he felt the call to the ministry, or he felt the call to do this or to do that. We have been called, according to our text, to be blessed. That's our calling, to be blessed people and to be a blessing to others, because we want to share what God has given to us. Well, how do we experience this blessed life? We experience this blessed life with new attitudes. And you'll notice there the 5 points on your outline insert. And notice right at the center there you have brotherly love. Love kind of holds all things together. And we love one another because we've been blessed and loved by God. And so we extend that love to each other. I like what Robert Frost said, home is where they have to take you in. You know, when you're experiencing trouble and problems and no one wants anything to do with you, you go home, right? That's where they have to take you in, your family, okay? No one can get to us as quickly as our brother, but we'll not defend anyone as quickly as we will our brother. Well, it's kind of a love relationship. Okay? We are the family of God. We are blessed as his family. And when we do things that are hurtful, say things that are offensive, we can still go home because we're family. And we'll receive forgiveness. Now, if someone has said something hurtful or offensive to you, if you want to enjoy the good life now and receive the blessing in its fullness, you must forgive. Because when you seek revenge, someone said, dig 2 graves for the one on whom you're going to take revenge and for yourself. We're not into vengeance. That belongs to God. We are into forgiveness. And so we're into this brotherly love forgiveness. If you've said something that is offensive or done something that is offensive, and let me just point out incidentally here that every week I have an occasion to offend many of you. Not everyone has that opportunity. But sometimes I may say something that, I don't agree with that, or I didn't like that, or what's he been doing, reading my mail? No. we're going to offend each other. We're going to hurt each other. And then hurt people hurt people. That's the normal that we see in our culture. But not in the family. In the family, when we're hurt, we heal. Someone said, time wounds all heals. Sometimes we're the heel that wound others and give them something that is hurting that needs to be healed, and sometimes we're the heel that in time will be wounded ourselves. But we're not into payback. We're not into revenge. We want to extend forgiveness. So if I've said something from this pulpit or done something during my daily walk that is offensive to you, you need to forgive me. And I need your forgiveness. And you need to be that forgiving person. Same goes for me, same goes for everyone here. That's who we are. We're family, and we experience this brotherly love. But notice points 1 and 5 are very much alike under this blessed new attitudes. Like-minded and humble-minded. You have to have humility if you're going to be like-minded with someone else. Say, well, I just don't agree with so-and-so. It's not that you agree, but you're like-minded in that you share the importance of getting along. You share the importance of forgiveness. You share the importance of recognizing that we can agree to disagree in an agreeable sort of way. We don't have to be disagreeable when we disagree. Accept one another, Romans 14, as the Lord has accepted you. It goes right on into Romans 15 as well. So we've been accepted by God as we are, not as he wants us to be, not as what we might become, but as we are, and we accept one another as we are. That's the like-mindedness that we share. We share this whole idea of living in harmony and unity. 1 Corinthians 1:10 on your insert there. Live in harmony with each other. Let there be no divisions in the church. Rather be of one mind. We're not divided. We're of one mind. Unity is of greatest importance, and these other differences, we can live with those, but we have to be of one mind in being united. We're not unified in the sense of uniformity. Can anyone here raise their hand and say, I agree with everything my spouse is and says? Be careful if you want to raise your hand. Can anyone here truthfully say, I agree with everything my wife says or does? No. Okay. We are at unity, though. We have a unity in our marriage relationship, that family relationship, because we agree to disagree sometimes. And that's the way it is in the family of God. Points number 2 and 4 are similar as well. Sympathetic and compassionate. That means that we feel with each other. We feel alike, and we rejoice with those who rejoice. We want to share that feeling of joy. And we weep with those who weep. We don't tell them, get over it. You shouldn't be crying. No, we weep when they weep. We try to experience. It's probably not real smart to say, I know how you feel, because most people won't believe us anyway. I know just how you feel. No, you don't. These are my own feelings, but I will weep with you. I will stay with you. I will not leave you. My mother, when she lost Dad, said there was a woman in town that came over several times a week, just about the time it was getting dark. And she would come in and they would talk. She had lost her husband. I don't know that she ever told my mother, I know how you feel, but she showed by her showing up, she had experienced similar feelings. And they would just talk and visit, and she would go home at a certain point. Mom remembered that. It was very important to her, because when it gets dark and you've lost someone just now, the curtains are coming down, and someone is just there to talk about what you want to talk about. If you want to talk about your departed, that's fine. If you want to talk about something else, that's fine. We're sympathetic. We have the same pathos, the same feelings as each other. So we experience the good life, and we're able to bless others with this share of the good life when we have this new attitude. The old attitudes, most of those aren't just, they're just not worth keeping. So point B here, well, let me read Philippians, which makes the same point. Let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. The Philippian church was divided. They needed to have one mind by accepting one another in the various weaknesses. Point B here, blessed with new behavior. Look at your text there in 1 Peter 3. Verse 8 there mentions all 5 of those points that we just went over. Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, brothers and sisters, be compassionate and humble. And now verse 9. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. We were called to a blessing, to be experiencing the good life, the blessed life. And he says, if you share this blessing with others, if you don't repay evil for evil, but you go to the opposite direction and you repay it with blessing, you will experience the good life, and you will introduce that blessed life to the one that you're forgiving. Okay? Well, we can just ask ourselves, how's it going when I get revenge? How's it going when I retaliate? Bless those who do something wrong or curse you. Don't react in kind, he says, but with blessing. We're called to this so that you may inherit a blessing. If you get away from your natural old nature instinct to give as you've been given to, you're not going to experience the blessed life. But there is blessing when you pronounce a blessing rather than a curse. Now, Jesus says there in Luke 6:28, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. Okay? That's what we get to here in point number 2. But number 1 here, he says, turn from evil and do good. It's not enough just to get rid of the bad. You have to replace it with the good. Now, Zach made this point last week when he talked about the individual who had all of these demons cast out of this demon out of his house, but he doesn't put anything in there to replace what he's thrown out. And so this demon goes and finds 7 of his cronies, and they come back, and the guy's 7 times worse off. And just think about your own experience. If you know someone who is religious in the sense of, I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this, they're miserable. If they define themselves by what they don't do, they're miserable. And they'll have bad religion. There's nothing worse than a self-righteous, I don't do that. Well, what do you do? What do you have in the way of good that has replaced all that stuff that was thrown out of the house? Or do you have a vacant house here where you've cleaned it out and you've now given opportunity for something worse to come in? We experience the blessed life when we turn away from evil and replace it with something good. Look at that passage in Isaiah. Chapter 1, verses 16, 17. Wash and make yourself clean. Okay, there's getting rid of the bad stuff. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. But don't stop with that verse. Go to verse 17. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. Now, James made the same point. Pure religion and undefiled before God the Father is this, to take care of the widows and the orphans and to keep yourself unspotted from the world. Yeah, don't be spotted with the bad stuff, but you got to replace it with some active, proactive good. That's when you start to experience the good life, the blessed life. So replace evil with good. You'll notice in the text here, if you read all the way through it, and we're going to get through it in just a minute, that he mentions the word evil 5 times. We got to get rid of evil. We got to keep getting rid of evil. We got to keep getting rid of the evil. The inclination that we have to do for self and to look out for self. And I don't care about how well you're doing, but what about me? Any consideration for me? Any thought of me? Let's think about me. Me, 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 me. Can we all sing now? No, we're not going to sing after we've done all that me. Because we're focused on ourselves. Replace it with good, and that is the outward. Point number 2 under B, bless your enemies and pray for them. Luke 6, bless those who curse you and pray for those who abuse you. Now, if you want to try this out, you won't have long to wait. The next time you're driving down 198 or on Caldwell, and someone cuts in on you, or does something dumb, or says something dumb, or even dumb, pray for them and say, Lord, bless them. And try to say it honestly. Lord, bless him. Oh. Instead of smiting him, I want you to smite him because he's an idiot. No, get rid of that. Replace it with a blessing. Help me to have a better attitude here. And I ask you to bless him in some way and to quit the cursing, whether it's by words or gesture. Okay? That's the typical way. That's the old way. That's the evil way of responding when someone does something bad to us. We want to curse them. No, don't curse them. Pray for them. Do good. And so you see this person down the road changing a flat tire. Now you have an opportunity to do good in a concrete way. Instead of just driving close by while he's changing that tire and honking the horn, that's the normal, the abnormal that we are, really. The old evil person we are, the inclination. Don't go there, he says. Get rid of that. Replace it with good. And try to smile when you walk up and say, can I help you in any way? Make a call for you because you may have forgotten your phone. Who knows? That's the good life. Well, it doesn't sound good to me. He needs to get a taste of his own medicine. I mean, we've got all these little slogans that we live by that sound reasonable, but they're made up sometimes by fallen creatures. Well, bless your enemies and pray for them. And then finally here, the C and the ABC here, blessed with new conversation, blessed with a new way of talking or speaking. I like Colossians 4, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt. Have gracious speech. Let it be graceful. Let it be something that is, when you have grace, you're giving them a gift. You're giving them forgiveness. You're giving them something they don't deserve. That's grace. Well, I'm not going to do anything for that person. They don't deserve it. Well, if they don't deserve it, they qualify for you to be gracious in speech and in action. We could get out of the mud sometimes if we were willing to go that extra mile, to do the thing that's unexpected, to extend grace where they're expecting retaliation. Be gracious to them with this new conversation. In Proverbs chapter 13, verse 3, at the base of your outline there, those who control their tongue will have a long life. Opening your mouth can ruin everything. Okay? I'll let you read some of those other proverbs for yourself. That 18:21 says, if you talk a lot, sin is not far away. Because the more we talk, the more likely we are to sin with our speech and saying something offensive and sometimes just focusing on ourselves. But I like this other one. I think Rick has this one for us. Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. I may have sent him the wrong one. Let me read you what the other one says. Too much talk. This is the new, that may be the difference, the new Living Translation. And I love the succinct way it's put. Too much talk leads to sin. So if you're inclined to talk a lot, as some preachers are, you know, sin is lying at the door. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. Sermon's over, if I take my advice, or Solomon's advice. But we looked at it this morning in class. He didn't take his own advice. He was wiser than he behaved. But his conversation made a lot of sense. We need to recognize that we are conversing and sharing with our lips, and to be careful. There's so many ways we can sin. Verse 9, do not repay evil. 1 Peter 3, do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing. Because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would love life, you want the good life, and see good days, bring it on. Must keep their tongue from evil, their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. You're not just hoping peace comes, you're pursuing it. You're chasing after it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. We have the Lord of blessing, who has entered into a covenant of blessing. When Paul mentions that in Galatians 3, he says that was the original intent of God. He made a covenant of blessing with Abraham because Abraham took him at his word and believed him. He said, I'm going to bless you. He said, great. And I want you to bless others. Will do. And then it says the law was added 400 some odd years later. It was added. The law, which makes our life work better if we keep the law, but grace is greater than the law. The covenant of blessing is greater than the covenant of law. And if you have anyone who lives by a covenant of law, if people treat me right, I'll treat them right. If they say the right things about me, I'll say the right things about them. You're not going to have the good life. You're not going to have the blessed life. When you go against your natural inclinations, then the blessings will come and God's face will shine on you. The song that we're going to sing here is, the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you and give you peace. Moses wanted that blessing of God's face shining on him. God says, I will give you a partial vision of me. I'll hide you in the cleft of the rock, and I will pass by, and you will see my glory. Come to the New Testament, 2 Corinthians 3, we're not like Moses who had a veiled face, but we with unveiled face are beholding the glory of the Lord. As we draw near to him and he draws near to us, we're beholding his glory. So our face, as we see his face in those quiet, obedient moments, ought to be reflected. If you want to be a blessing to others, enter into that covenant of blessing and go against the natural law-keeping method of doing business with other people. If you need to respond, if you want to seek the Lord's blessing in a special way, would you do that while we stand, while we sing?